Hello everyone, my name is Jolene Schaefer, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technology. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Sage 100 Tips and Tricks, presented by Bruce Kern of SWK Technology. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. To submit a question, look for the question section in your GoToWebinar. We will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording this presentation. It will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees as well as to those who registered but were not able to attend. Please take a moment at the end of the presentation to answer our 2-question survey. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend our webinar. We're here to help you get the most out of your software solutions and help you find an easier way to run your business by providing you software and industry knowledge, tools, and support whenever you need it. So whether you're here doing research for a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions throughout the webinar. Lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Bruce.
Thank you, Jolene. Perfect. Let me get my screen shared here and we'll begin. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for the nice introduction, Jolene. All right, well, welcome to Tips and Tricks, everyone. And for those of you who attended the Empower conference, you will see a couple things in this webinar that were shown during that conference. But that was a short 15, 20-minute session. This one is going to be quite a bit longer. So we've worked in some new material. Without any further ado, let's get started. So our first tip is right here at the login screen. So I'm triple-aught today, not using a password to make things easy. There's a settings button here, and you can enable access to this button in Library Master under the user settings in role maintenance. So if you grant that, the user can grant this, click this button here, and they can access their Sage user, and they can review their user settings for preferences that might be applicable for them. So the screens are pretty self-explanatory, but you can see here I've got some different settings. So that's my first tip, is to be able to set your own little things. We'll talk a little bit more about that here as we get in. We're going to be in the AO3 company today. So once we're actually logged into Sage, we also have that same change user settings button right here under the home tab. So if you got past the login screen 99% of the time like I do, you didn't click on it, and you can still get to it right from here. Again, it only pulls up the user that you're logged into Sage with, and there you go. My preferred setting here of all these, the one I like, is this default report zoom. It really is helpful to just have the reports come up based on your screen size and your resolution the way you want it. Now there's also in here under Library Master, there's also user maintenance. This is under the main. This does require an additional layer of security access to get into here. And in here you can access all users. So if you wanted to change preferences for some other user, if you're a manager or something like that, and you just wanted to be kind of help your users out by doing that, you can go to any user you want, click on the number 2 tab, and there's that user's settings. Okay, and that won't affect anybody else. Now, we're looking at Sage 100C, and I have this on a Windows 2012 R2 server, and I have the resolution on the base machine kind of bumped up because I do demos on here. So some of these options I'm about to show will be grayed out, but here under the View, Application Scaling is a great little tip. You can choose the default, the medium, the large, or the extra large. My large and extra large are grayed out because I've already monkeyed with the screen resolution. But if I change it back to default, you see it goes back to smaller, or you can go back to medium, just like that. And in your case, you may have one of the even larger ones. So this is a way of just making the screen more readable. All right, let's talk about the Master Console next. Here's the Master Console button. That's under the Home there. Or you can also get to it under Library Master Main Master Console. Most people will just launch it right off the ribbon here. And what this does is it keeps track of every single machine, every Sage user that's logged into that machine, what company they're in, what they're doing in Sage, and what the accounting is. So I'm just going to open up something here. And we're dealing with demo data. Happens to be dated pretty current to where we're at. If I open up something else like customer inquiry, for example, and were to go back to my master console and refresh it, I now can see that this machine user 00 is in customer inquiry. You can sort by any of these columns by just clicking on them. You can do a broadcast. Hey, user 000, I need you to get out of customer maintenance. I need to post something. So this is just a great way to kind of see what's going on at a quick snapshot. All right, favorites. So as you can see, there's a lot of modules in Sage. And if you have a power user and you see all this stuff, there's just a lot of menus and modules to kind of navigate. So one nice thing to be able to do is to click down here on the favorites radio button, and you can add some favorites for yourself. So let's add some favorites and show you how that works. What I like to do is highlight the area, open up the menu that has the task that you want a shortcut for. So let's say I want invoice data entry from accounts payable. I expose the menu. I come over here to my favorites, and I just left click it with my mouse and drag it over here. Boom, there it is. Now you can rename these. So for those of you who've used Sage for any length of time, you know that there's about 6 places in Sage that say invoice data entry, AR, AP, sales order, job costs, and there's some more. So I'm going to just rename that AP invoice data entry and make it very clear what that actually is. Another type of shortcut we could do would be some type of a program. So let's go ahead and blow this guy up, take up the full screen. Let's say that we like to use a lot of Excel. This could really work for any program. We're going to come in here. I'm going to find where Excel is in my menu. And this might look a little different on an actual PC and also different just depending on the operating system. But however you get to the open file location, that's what you want to do. Here's my Excel shortcut. And I'm just going to drag that over here right into my shortcuts. Now I'll be able to launch Excel right from that menu. Okay, and then you can also do a little organization in here. You could do a folder. So let's say I want a folder. You can call this whatever you want, my junk. I'm going to call this month end. And then maybe for month end, I'm the accountant perhaps. Let's just go with that scenario for now. And let's say that at month end, I like to run financial reports. So all I got to do is expose that menu item, drag that task in there, and now I have a 1-layer folder. I can bump up to here to see the other things. So you can also create some structure within this. Now another thing that you can do here is just to create a separator. So if you right click and you want to create a visual break somewhere like that, you can do a line. You can move these lines up and down wherever you want. Okay, so that's how you create favorites. And that can make some time saving valuable. All right, so as long as we're talking about customization on menus, let's talk about the web content. So Sage 100 comes with these things at the very top here, the information center, the resources, the tours, the dashboard, all good stuff to explore. I've added a couple here. I'm just going to add one more to kind of show you how you can add a URL to launch directly from your Sage. So here we go. We're going to do edit, right click, edit web content. We are just going to click the new link, and we're going to go ahead and put in the URL. Now, be advised, you do need to know whether you should be using the S at the end of the HTTP or not. And we're going to put in swktech.com. And we'll call it SWK. It's an option to open that in a new window. Sometimes I find that works better on particular websites, and sometimes it doesn't make any difference. So it's a preference, and I'm going to hit OK. Now there it is. Let's go ahead and launch it. This might take a second. It takes things a little bit of a time to fire up here. And up it comes. And now you're out to, in this case, SWK. Here's our Screen Connect link. So if you click up there and you need to join us in with a code, you know, will come in, will help you do whatever the tech support is at the hypothetical use of the tool. Of course, you see I've got Sage Partner Portal, Washington Department of Revenue. It's really whatever you need, but that's how you can add a URL to your favorites. Okay, next tip here is about making a test company or snapshot. So let's just talk about it first. So there may be a need at various times in your Sage life to make a snapshot of your current production company at a point in time. Let's say it's year end and you want to have an archive of the company before you close the books, or just after, or both. It might be that you have some sort of a problem that you want to try a fix for, but you're not sure if it's going to work out or not, so you want to do it in a test company to check out the results before you actually do it in a real company, always looking to avoid scrambling the eggs. So the tip here is, if you're going to make a copy of your production company to a test company or a snapshot for archive, the first thing you need to be aware of is how much space is on the machine where your Sage is installed. So if you aren't sure, coordinate with your IT staff and or SWK. We can help you evaluate that, but you don't want to make a copy of your data if you aren't sure that your system has the space for it. Most people will have the space, but it is critically important, and I'm not going to cover how to evaluate that as part of today's webinar. We just have too much other stuff to get to. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a test company. So library master main, company maintenance, and here's the little lookup screen to see all the companies that are currently there. So along the lines of talking about space for making a copy is a note that if I'm copying over one of these other, let's say, test copies, I'm only going to be adding the incremental data from the last time I made that copy. If I'm making a brand new company code to put my copy into, or my archive, it means I'm literally copying the entire data set, and I'm going to need all of the space that that data set takes. So in this case, we know we're good to go. I'm just going to create the 999 for today, and then do what you want here. But if this is a test copy, I usually like to put the company code that it is a copy of and the date. So I'll put A03 copy, and I'll put today's date. Take out the extra 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit copy. Now here's a tip right here. Warning, copying individual modules that are not integrated with other modules may cause unexpected results. They're not kidding. What they mean is, if you go to copy a company and you try to take the PO module data without the AP, you're going to get errors that isn't going to work. Sage is very intertwined and very integrated. So your only safe bet is to copy all of the data. Then you know everything's going to point to each other and still work. And this is just telling me that I need to save the 999 before I do it because it didn't exist. I'm just going to click yes. And then here I'm going to pick my source company. Make sure when you get to this step, especially if you had your destination company before, that you don't have these values reversed. I've seen people do it. And the only way to get it back where it was is restore from backup. So always make double sure, triple check this. Source company AOC is good. We've got all the modules checked. We're going to hit proceed and say yes. Now, how long that process takes in your environment depends on the infrastructure that you have, your bandwidth, the size of your data, and where it's being done from. It's always quicker at the server. So I've copied it over there, and that's all I really needed to do. Another thing we'll mention is that this process of copying your data may or may not copy your custom office settings. So the custom office settings could be things like user-defined fields, they could be named fields, hidden fields, etc., and many more. So when you have custom office settings, there are settings for both the company and the users. So if your settings are for all companies and all users, then these would automatically show up in these other companies. If their customizations are specific to a given company code, then none of those customizations would show up in the other company. And then lastly is this process does not automatically copy your forms. So if you have custom forms and you want to work on those in the test environment and then move them back, there's another process to do that. Not particularly difficult, but we're not going to cover that either today. The long and short of it is you activate the code, move the file, and then you can access it in the test. So those are the caveats. We'll go ahead and click accept here. Now, we're going to do something else here. We're going to go back into this 999 in company maintenance, and we're going to talk about themes real quick. So way over here on the number 7 tab is the themes, and this is a pretty cool thing. So what I'm going to do is hit this lookup button. Sage 100C comes with 3 themes: classic, standard, and standard green. And then you can create your own themes. I created one here called the Oregon Duck. I'm just going to choose classic for now. And then what I'm going to do is choose, under the theme here, I'm going to choose a frame. So background means the whole background on the entire screen. The frame is just the outside border that you see currently is blue. And both means both. So I'm going to choose frame. And then this little color palette lights up for me. All right, I'm going to go into the color palette. And I'm going to choose a color. I'm going to choose red today because it shows up good on video. But this could be a way of making your company visually distinct. So I've associated red with the company 999 on the border. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to go into something in 999. So I'll do change company, switch to 999. And it's telling me I'm 999 down below. So I will just open something up. Anything at all, we should be able to see it. All right, let's open up vendor inquiry. Okay, so there's the red border. So that can be a really good way of making different companies visually distinct, especially if it's a copy and it's a mirror image of the real one. Without the color, it might be easy for somebody to kind of forget. But there you go. There's how to make a colored border based on a company code. All right, let's go back to AO3. Okay, let's see here. Let's talk about alt commands. So we'll go to customer maintenance for this. Accounts receivable main, customer maintenance, and I'm just going to pull up a customer, any customer. So here's the first customer in my database. I just click the arrow button and pull them up, and they've got a memo that popped up. So this tip here is about the alt command. So you all probably know from using Sage, you can click and tab and click with your mouse. That's what most of us tend to do. But there's also alt command. So any underlined letter or number on any screen in Sage is an alt command. Alt commands are faster than clicking with your mouse. They've done studies. I don't know who they are, but it's true. This is a much quicker way of navigating. So instead of grabbing my mouse and clicking the X or the OK button, I could just do Alt-O because the O is underlined. Boom, that goes away. If I want to look at my transactions on tab number 7, I go Alt-7. If I want to look at the collections information on tab 9, I can just do Alt-9. That's actually a custom tab that we added with custom fields, so the alt commands work there too. If I want to go back anywhere else, statistics, again, Alt-Command. I can go back to Alt-1 if I want to look at this customer's tax exemptions. So notice on the bottom of the main screen, it has a button called exemptions. That will make their transactions non-taxable if they have data entered in there. If I want to see that, I just hit the little Alt-X. It opens those up for me. Alt-OK to close it. I think you get the idea by now. All right, as long as we're in here, let's talk about the lookup screens in Sage. So Sage calls this the advanced lookup engine. It's kind of a fancy term they use. But these little lookup icons, the magnifying glass, are pretty much all over the place in Sage. Whether you're looking up items, customers, vendors, whatever it is, that's the lookup screen. So let's talk about what we have here. So these come with a set of standard views. You can sort these columns. There's a search criteria down below, all pretty standard stuff. What we're going to do is talk about how you could customize your lookups for particular purposes and or to get right at the data that you're trying to get. So that's the standard view. We're going to leave that one alone. I have a past due view, kind of a collection scenario that's partially built. We're going to talk about that one and make some changes to it. So here's the past due view. You can see what this one has is some current balance information as well as some of the aging information and some information about what looks like a salesperson email address. So let's say this is partially built. We want to round this thing out to be what we're looking for. So we've got the view here. We're just going to hit this custom button and make sure we're on the one that we want. So past due is the one we want. You can make these your default view if you wish. We're going to hit next. Now, fields on the right are the fields I already have. Fields on the left are what's available. So what's available depends on where you are in Sage. You're going to be seeing the fields on the left will be the native table for the lookup that you're in. So if you're in a customer lookup, it's going to be customer information. If you're in a vendor stream, it's going to be vendor information. If you're in an item stream, it's going to be item information, and so on. So what we're doing is we're going to finish this kind of collection scenario. So we're going to scroll on down here until we find, we're looking for the first one is going to be the aging category for 30 days. We'll keep on trucking. And then there's aging category 1. So if any of you know anything about how Sage is set up, out of the box, it gives you aging category 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you decide what those represent in the settings. This system is set up for 30, 60, 90, and 120 days. Pretty standard stuff. So that's why it says aging category 1, not 30 days. So there's aging category 1. Let's put that in the position where we want it. So it always adds it to the last field. Then we have move up and move down buttons here to move it into the position that we want. So I'm going to move that up to before 30 days. So now I've got current balance and then everything in order. Now let's hit the modify button here and make it say what we want it to say. So we'll call that 30 days. And then you can mess with the width, justification, the mask, etc. I'm not going to do that. So there's my 30 days. Good. Now what do I need? I need a column that's going to give me the total past due. That way I'll know what's current. I'll have the past due total plus a breakdown of the past due. Well, problem. Sage doesn't store the past due amount, believe it or not. It does store current balance and 30, 60, 90, and 120 in this case, but it does not store the past due. So how am I going to get that? I'm going to calculate it because I have the pieces. So new field button. Here we can do calculations and make our own fields. So I'm just going to call it past due amount. I'm going to put it at 15 and hope it's good. I'm going to go into the little hammer and chisel, and I'm going to build the formula. So up here is the formula builder. Down below is the fields that are available. So all I have to do is get down to that aging stuff, and there it is. And I just have to come up with a formula for the past due, which is pretty simple. It's whatever's not current. So aging categories 1, 2, 3, and 4 should do the job. I'll hit OK, and then I'll hit OK, and there's my past due amount right there. Let's move that up where we want it. I want that to be after my current balance, and then I want my break-in. Okay, good. Now, moving right along here, up above, you may not have seen it, but there was a salesperson code. But that's all that our customer has is a salesperson code. So I may want something more like the salesperson's name or their phone number. So as I cruise down, further down the list, I'm starting to run out of the native AR customer tables, and I'm starting to see user-defined fields. I'll just mention that, yes, if you have user-defined fields, you can use them in your lookups just like standard fields. So none of those were created for this particular webinar, so I'm going to kind of skip past those. And then at the very bottom, you will see other tables with these little pluses next to them. Those are what's called leaf tables. And this is a place where you can get at some additional details that you may not get out of the AR customer table. So in this scenario, what I'd like to have is that salesperson's name, not their code, because the code doesn't tell me who they are. It's just a number. So here, but the salesperson table does have their name, so I can go ahead and grab the name, push it over to that side, and there's their name. I could rename that, as you've seen. I put it up above the email address. You're good there. And that's really all I'm going to do for here. Now what I'm going to do is hit next. I could continue to filter this if I want. I could say the past due amount is greater than whatever amount I want. I'm not going to do the filtering today. I'm going to go with the default here for the initial search, and then I'm going to hit finish. So what did we end up with? So I'm back at the standard view because it didn't get set to be my default. I'm going to go to the past due view here, and I'll be able to see now that I now have my past due amount as well as my salesperson name. So let's say, okay, that's great. Hey, I want to take action on this. I want to see that in Excel. I could sort that by the salesperson's name, and then I could put this Excel button down here, which is on every lookup screen, and it could drop that stuff right out into Excel for me. And if I wanted to do something for whatever reason, cut and paste and send, Harvey his list and Jenny her list and Jim his list, all with an Excel thing, I could do that pretty easily at this point. Not going to save this. But that's a little bit on lookup customization, things you can do there. Okay. Okay, next we'll talk about data entry grids. Sales order is a good one for this. Lots of screens in Sage with grid entry. The sales order entry is a really good example. So we'll pull up an order, any order, head over to the line tab. This is the grid screen that we're talking about. So upper grid, secondary grid. The idea with the grid system is that you put the fields that you want in the order that you want them, in the width that you want them, so that your data entry is streamlined for you. This doesn't affect anybody else other than you. So you can knock yourself out here. The first thing to talk about is just the toggle. So the secondary grid by default is down below. This little icon in the upper right-hand area here, it looks like a box with kind of an arrow going left-right. That's a toggle. It's the change view button. If I click that, all it does is it moves those fields in the secondary grid that from down below off to the right. I can click it again, it puts them back down below. That's all it is. So I find that the stock position works best for me because my screen is kind of a landscape. So keeping that stuff up above real wide is where I want it. Now, some of the other things you can do here is you can change the order of these fields. So if I want my comment to be over here for some reason, I can do that. You can change the width of these fields. You can hide these fields. If you want to get rid of a field that you don't use, let's say up here, you just hover over it with your mouse, click your right mouse button, and just drag it down below or off to the right, depending on where your secondary grids are. Let it go, and it's out of the way. If you want to add a field up above, you just locate it wherever it is in the secondary grid, and let's say we want the warehouse. All right, I'm going to hover over the warehouse, left click with my mouse, and drag it up here, and let it go. If you do much of this grid customization, if you start playing with this, you will screw this up. We all do it. So if you do something like, I don't know, you shrunk your unit price and couldn't get it back because you couldn't see it, here's a trick. Here's another tip. So if you want to ever just get this thing back to stock because you did something crazy and you can't figure out what you did, get into the grid, right click, do panel settings, and choose the reset panel. All right. So check that box, reset all grids. If the reset panel size and position is offered, you will also check that box. Do not delete the customizer modifications. It shouldn't flag you. All right, so now I'm going to just do panel settings, reset the panel, reset all the grids, and it's telling me right there that I have to exit that screen and get back in. So let's do that and see if we can see what we accidentally hit. So we'll head back in there, pull up an order in the order, and now we can see the unit price again. Okay, so that's a little bit on grid customization. All right, report selection grids. So for this one, we're going to go over to the general ledger. And we're going to use the general ledger detail report. So in this situation, what we're going to talk about, this tip, let's say it's, hypothetical example, it's month end, I'm the accountant, and I need to run some general ledger detail reports because I use them for reconciliation or the backup for a reconciliation, whatever reason. And let's say that I want to be able to do this for the 101 account, the 175 account, coming down here, trucks, and I can use it randomly, and let's do a 225. So that's way down here, something about FICA taxes payable. So the problem with that is that none of these accounts that I want can use any of these operands to get them in one report without getting a bunch of other stuff that I don't want. So I could run one report that captures all these and get a lot of other data that I don't want. I could run 3 different reports, one by one. But maybe there's a way to run one report and get targeted what I want. And that's what we're going after in this tip. Okay, so what we're going to do here is show you how to select for values in reports when none of the operands actually work and you don't want to run 3 reports. So how we'll do that, it's actually very simple. I couldn't believe it when I learned this tip myself. You're just going to type the code you want, 101, followed by the next value you want, 175, followed by the whatever other values you want. So those are the 3 values I want. I leave it at all, and I put a comma in between with no space. Make sure I don't have space. Yeah, it doesn't. It kind of looks like there's a space. Now let's do a couple other things here. Let's say that we wanted to have the report settings. Let's say that we wanted to 3-hole punch it. I'm not going to do 3-hole punch, but that's a couple settings right there. And so we could run this report and we'll get those values. We'll do that in a minute. Another thing we can do here is if we're going to be doing this every month, let's say, it might be helpful to have this saved so that we didn't have to make these changes every time. So let's save it. So in here in the upper right-hand area, I recommend that you don't make changes to the standard. So we're going to do save as, leaving the standard alone, and we're going to give this thing a name. So maybe we'll call it month end. You can change the description here if you want. You can choose to make it public, private, or read-only. Public means other people with security access can see your setting and use it and change it. Private means only you. Read-only means other people can use it, but they can't change it. Most people just leave it public. And now I'm going to go one more step. I can actually modify this report in Crystal if I want to. So I'm going to click that designer button, and that will launch Crystal Reports, and it will open this report setting for me in Crystal, and I could do additional manipulation here. Let's do something simple. Let's just give that a blue color. So in theory, we could do, whoops, I clicked the wrong button. There's save, and we'll close it. Now we're going to actually close that. Now we're going to actually run this thing. Okay, so there's my month end. It's got my report settings selected. It's got my 3 accounts. Let's see if it works. Okay, here's the report settings page. It's just telling me what I did. That kicks out an extra page for some reason. I don't know why. Here's the actual report. There's our blue color that we gave it. Here's the 101. I'm actually going to zoom this down and go to the next one. We're still on the 101s there. Here's the 175 starting right here on page 5. And then the 225 comes next. So we got just the accounts, starting with those 3 main values that we specified and nothing else. All right, that's the end of that one. Okay, now this next one's kind of a fun one. So let's see here. We're in AO3, and certainly we could go onto GL main and we could open up an release pass and we do our thing. But here's a cool feature. If you right-click, you gotta be careful with this one here. Open with, I can set a secondary company. So I'm gonna do new secondary company, and I'm gonna choose that 999 company. And it's actually going to launch that pass from AO3 in 999. So now 999 opens with a red border, but I'm still in AO3. Interesting, huh? So be careful, especially if you don't have your screen color coded. So I'm just going to do something else here. I'm just going to pick this account. Let's see, this one is, I think it's 105 for use. I think this has that. So here's another interesting feature that is newer to Sage, not brand new. But let's say here's this entry in here. And for whatever reason, I'm seeing this, and I can't believe this entry got posted. This is totally an error. I could go pull this entry up. I could drill into it, find out what the entry is, who did it, and I could go make a reversal if I needed to. But there's this new reversal button here. This little guy here. It's the same one here. So if I want to just reverse it from here, I could do that, but I can't actually see the whole entry. So from a practice standpoint, a lot of people will drill into it, then see the whole entry, and then go, oh, I do want to reverse this. So if you use this feature, what this does, I'll click it so we can see it. So that was journal entry 22, we just reversed. Now we'll go into general journal entry and see if we can see it. So open with 999. Be careful because a lot of people will go into the other one and we'll see it under the flashlight here. It's probably this one. Yep, it's that one, unless we jump in there. And that's the reversal of journal 22. All I'd have to do is run the update at this point to back that thing up if it was necessary. So I wouldn't have had to enter those 16 lines manually or even longer if it's a longer entry. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm not going to update that. Okay, so let's talk about that feature a little more. So let's say that a reversal is needed because somebody did an AP invoice batch that was done incorrectly for some reason and it came through the AP module and it needs to basically be backed out and redone correctly. This feature would not necessarily be appropriate for that. So it's only appropriate, this reversal only reverses in the general ledger. So if the problem that you're trying to do the fix for, the reversal for, originated in a subsidiary module, and that module data is also affected and needed to be fixed, then don't use this feature to do it. This is for GL side only reversals. So if the fix is needed from one of the other modules, you need to go through the process of correcting the data there, and then let it flow the data over to the general ledger as it did in the first pass, perhaps incorrectly. So be careful with that. Okay. All right. Let's do another GL feature here. All right, general journal entry. We're going to show a copy, some copy features and some template type features here. So in here is my list of the journals I've got defined. I've got one defined for journal entry as JE. You see DJ out there a lot for general journal. And I've got the source journal now, and I'm going to get my next number. So as soon as I get the journal code and the journal number, some buttons light up. One of them is the copy from. All right, so let's look at copy from. We'll talk about the standard in a minute. The allocation is a little bit more involved. We're not going to cover that one today. We're going to start with journal history. Okay, so what it's doing is Sage keeps track of history based on your settings, and I will now be able to see every journal entry with JE that's in history by picking this option. So demo data is only 3 of them in here. So if I want to bring in this one, for example, I can just select it. It comes in. I'm probably going to want to update my comments to be appropriate. I may need to update my date, whatever, but here's all my stuff from that journal entry, and I can then just modify this as needed. So if the amounts change, if I want to add accounts, anything I want to do, it's just like I hand typed it. But I copied it from one that's in history. So if you ever had something, that took a while to do the journal entry for, and you didn't say it was a standard template, and you wanted to still be able to recall it next time, that's a way you could do that. All right, I'm going to hit cancel. We're not going to save that. Now let's talk about the standard listing. So the first thing I'll do is to show you the standard listing. So what is the standard listing? Basically, it's a place where you can save a template for a journal entry that can save the comments so that you can recall it to make a new journal entry, let's say, quickly. So the standard listing is just a report that says what you have saved out there as standard. So we're going to take a look at this, and then we're going to talk about how you save a standard, then we're going to pull one in. So here's the standard listing. I used to keep this kind of handy with my month-end stuff, and there's a couple of them in here. This first one, JE depreciation, monthly depreciation, is one that I set up. I told it I wanted to go ahead and save the comments, and then here's my actual entry right here. So I've got a depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation. This one down below is the one that the demo data kind of came with, and I don't like that one because it's got a number here for the standard journal, which doesn't mean anything to me. So that's why I use DEPR. So, and it's a combination of the source journal and the standard journal code that is kind of how it recognizes it. All right, so let's let's do one. Let's talk about how do we save a standard. So if I picked a journal here, and I got the number, and I went over here and made all my entries, etc., and got it ready and said, okay, now I want to save this for next time. All you would do is click Save Standard. It knows you're in the journal that you're in, JE in my case, and here's where I would just give it the standard journal. So if this is for amortization, maybe I type AMORT. It just depends on what you want to do. All right, now, so once we have those saved, they show up in the listing report and they're available. So cancel again. Now let's pull one in. So we have one for JE. I need an entry number. My copy from button lights up. I click copy from, and standard journal is my first option. So when I click OK, it's going to automatically display of all the standard journals that I have saved for the journal that I'm in, which is JE. So I only have this one, but you could have many. It's not a limitation. So I go, yep, that's the one I want. Boom, when it comes, modify my date, my comment. You know, in this case, probably just drop in the numbers for this month, and away I go. So that's how the standard journal entry works. Notice it does not save the dollars, but it has the option of saving the comment at the time you save it. Okay. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about custom office. You know, in a lot of these topics we're touching on, you could spend an entire webinar on just one of them. But we're going to sprinkle it in a little bit. So we're just going to talk a little bit about custom office, and we're going to just expose you to a little bit of the setup. So custom office, you define field and table maintenance. We're just going to show you something. We're not expecting to teach you how to do custom office and tips and tricks. Just expose you to a little bit. So here is an AR customer master table. We're going to go and just take a look at some of the customizations that are in here. And these are just some custom UDF fields that I have. And in here, one of them we have is called caller ID. And we're just going to look at that one. So we've got a user-defined field called caller ID. And basically what this does is it has a list of staff that we maintain here. That, you know, we can change this anytime. This determines, you know, what the valid values are for who the caller IDs are. That's the way I did this one. So then what we did is we added that field to a screen. So up here in accounts receivable, customer maintenance, we put the customer in customer. And we added a tab with custom office, and we added some fields in here. Here's that caller ID field. This one was a drop down, so here's where we see all the different choices that we had available. So that's what it looks like on a screen hypothetically. And then what we're going to do is show how you might use UDF data and incorporate a little Business Insights Explorer with it. So that may be as far as you go with your custom office, but we're going to take it up a notch here in our tips and tricks. So up here in your menu, there's Business Insights. And if we go into Business Insights, there is the dashboard, the reporter, and the explorer. So I'll talk about these first two briefly, and then we'll get into the explorer, which is what I'm going to show you. So the dashboard is a pre-configured thing that comes with your Sage 100, and basically it gives you some graphical information. It's not customizable, but basically you go through a wizard, you tell it, this user gets this type of information. So this user might get AP information, this other user might be looking at GL information. There's charts and graphs and some drill downs. But it's static, you don't get to customize it. The reporter here is just a front end of Crystal, so you go through a wizard and you pick basically information that you might want in a Crystal report. I don't think it works very good personally, but it's a front end of Crystal. If you're really brand new to Crystal and you don't know much about how to build reports, custom reports, it might be something for you. I'd actually recommend a Crystal class if you want to do that. Here's the Explorer menu. So these are one of the best things Sage has added to the software in quite a while. So you can see there's a lot of views here of different types of information. If you look at this through the Business Insights module, you'll be seeing all of the views for the entire system, assuming you have access. If you look at a particular module, each one will have its own Explore menu with a shorter list that applies just to that module. So it just depends on what you want to do. And it may launch the exact same thing. So we're going to go ahead and just launch the customer view. And this is a lot like the standard report settings where you can save them. So here's a standard customer view. I'm going to go one called Collections Dashboard. And we're going to talk about customizing this a little bit. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to add the caller ID. So lots of ways to do it. My preferred method is just to hover over these column headers, right-click my mouse, and go into the column settings. So the first thing you want to do is just look in this list right here. Anything you want to add is literally just a checkbox. So you could literally just check it and magically show up. You can also click the Add button to see more tables. We'll get into that in a minute here. Actually, just go in here. If I didn't see it in this list, and I knew that I have it, like maybe one of my UDFs, I know those are in the AR customer, I could just go in here, open this table, scroll down to find my UDFs, and they tend to be at the bottom of all these lists, and I could bring it in and just pick it that way. Now, I already had this one added from a previous demo and from prepping for this. So what I'm going to do is just come down here and pick it. There's caller ID. So I check it. That's all I really need to do. And hit OK. And then I'm going to scroll over here to the right, and here's my caller ID right here. So if I want to move that around somewhere, I can do that. But there's my caller ID. All right. Now let's do something a little funner than that. So here we've got that past due amount. Here's that aging information that we talked about. Some of them haven't been named. But let's talk about color coding data in Business Insights Explorer. So what we want to do is we want to display everything that's past due as a red number. If it has a past due amount greater than 0, we want it in red. If it doesn't have a past due greater than 0, then I don't really care what color it is. It can just stay black. Let's talk about how we might do that sort of thing. Right-click, go to your column settings, and locate the field that you want. So mine is already on the past due amount, and you can change this format here. You can set the format. This one's already set the currency, and then you can use a column level format. So depending on what format the data item is, depends on what will light up down here. But when I check that box, if it's currency, the currency formatter lights up. If it's a date, the date formatter lights up. If it's a number, the number format lights up. If it's Boolean or a name value, those formats will light up. So here it is. We're currency. We're going to use the column level formatter. Currency is opened up. What is this thing actually saying? It is saying that if you are a positive number, there's a format that you could choose to do. If it's a negative number in the middle here, there's a format you can choose to do. And if it's a 0, then there's a format you can do. There's also drop downs here. You can also create your own format. Usually I just go with what's available. So in this case, the past due amount displays as a positive number. And so I want to format this positive number format with a color. So I just put my mouse in there. I'm going to right click and do insert color tag, and I'm going to pick the color that I want. Red shows up good on demos, and red is always good for past due amount. And I'm going to click OK. Now, all of a sudden, my past due numbers that are greater than 0 are lighted up in red. Pretty cool. All right, let's go to column settings. Let's do one more. Let's say that the current amount. Let's see where's that current balance. There it is right there. Let's say that current balance, I want to display that in green. I check the column level formatter. I come in here and I right click, insert a color tag, and choose a color, dark green. And there you go. Now my current balance is all formatted in green. So that can be very, very good for visual appeal. Another tip is don't forget to pin that navigation pane out. Another cool thing that you can do from things like this is you could hypothetically be using this to call a customer because their phone number's here. And then you could go right into the customer maintenance tab right from here, launch customer maintenance, pulls up the customer you were on. You could update your collections information based on the call. You could even go into cash receipts and enter a payment over the phone if you have the credit card module. And you could update those notes and move on to the next call. Let's do some other stuff in here. Let's see, what do we want to do? Let's just export this to Excel. Okay, so there are little boxes along the side here where you can click into and it'll mark those boxes with a little dot. And that means those are rows that you specifically selected. And you can export either all rows or the selected rows only. So let's get rid of this guy and we'll do File, Export Options. And here's where the selected records only is. If I check that, it means that only the rows that I selected in the grid will actually come out. I'm not going to do that for now. I'm just going to choose Excel, and I'm just going to let this thing jump out to Excel. So when you export from Business Insights Explorer, it only exports the upper grid, not the lower grid. So keep that in mind, but here's the information now in Excel. Sometimes it'll do something funky like in, this is some kind of a weird format export thing it did. It's usually pretty clean, that one not as clean as that. All right, so you can export your data from here pretty easily. You can do other things like mail merges and other cute stuff. It's not widely used. Here's another good thing that's really easy to do though. Let's do some charting. So right on the charts tab here, let's show how easy it is to graph some of this data. We'll call this past view by rep. They didn't hire me for my typing. We can choose what type of a chart we want. I'm going to go to pie chart this time. Data points per page. So this is going to be past view by rep. I believe we have fewer than 8 reps. So if I didn't know, I would double check it. If I want to make it 3D, I can. And then here we're going to find our element that we want to chart on. So we'll see if we can find the past due amount. There it is. And it's already got grouping by salesperson. So there it is. There's my past due chart by sales rep. There's a little legend box to the upper right and the dollar amount in the chart. And then if I wanted to save that like that, I would just hit the save button and it would be saved. All right. So that's a little quick and dirty on some tips and tricks for Business Insights Explorer to get you going. Going to close that one and not save it. All right, back to sales order now. So sales order entry, we're going to talk about some copy features in sales order. So if I get a sales order number in here and I start the sales order number, we'll just go ahead and take that. As soon as I've got a sales order number in here, the copy from button lights up. So we'll hit copy from, and we can choose any of these options. So any other sales order out there, any other sales order or quote that's in history, or any invoice that's in the entire history of my stage. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose that for fun. Here I'm just telling it what kind of an order type that I want this to come in as. Standard orders, the typical. And then here I'm going to go ahead and hit the lookup to see what invoices it thinks are out there. And I'm just going to pick one at random. So this invoice must be sales order. Let's try that one. Okay, good. Demo data, stuff happens. Hit OK. It brought it in, just like the original order. At this point, I would just massage this to be whatever I want this particular order to be. I don't want this warehouse to again, demo data. So at this point, I would just massage this order. So if that was a really long one, we could, save some time getting that in there. Okay, that's the copy film feature. All right. Multiple orders on a single invoice. Very cool feature. Let's get cancel on this. And let's take a look up here. Okay, so this next one is a kind of a cool feature. It's how do you invoice multiple sales orders on one invoice. So I'm going to talk about some limitations before I show it to you. Limitations. You can't have a credit card deposit or payment applied to any of the orders that are going to be grouped together for invoicing. They must be standard sales orders or cash sales type. Almost nobody does cash sales. Order has not been applied to any other invoice. Okay. Then there are some additional things that have to be the same. In addition to those limitations, one, the orders have to have the same terms code. So you can't have one be net 30 days and one net 60 days. Because they're going to be on one invoice. It has to have the same terms code, same ship to code, same discount rate, same sales tax schedule, same salesperson. If you have job costs, it has to be the same job number. The ship via shipping code and shipping zone, if you use shipping zone, most people don't, have to be the same. The bill to customer, ACH payment ID, and CRM person ID, CRM company ID, and CRM opportunity ID all have to match if you have CRM. Not all that common, but it's out there. Okay, so as we can see, we've got a couple orders at the bottom I threw in here with the pre-sailing ships on the sailors, so they got tapped for this. We're going to go ahead and just get the order number like we normally would, and we're just going to go ahead and look up our orders. So, whoops. Hold on, what happened, guys? I got in something. Get out of that. Oh, yeah, I'm in the wrong spot. All right, let's go to invoice data entry. I was showing you the orders there in the list. Let's go actually to invoice data entry, and this will make a little more sense. All right, so I've got an invoice, standard invoice. Here I'm going to look up my order number. So this, you could go through shipping, but I'm doing a standalone. So there's my order 176. I'm going to pick it, and in it comes. And notice this little plus button lights up here. Okay, we're going to come back to that in a minute. But notice the PO number is 555, and this is order 176. Let's go take a look at our line. I'm going to say no to that for now on purpose. So I've got one line item on here for $84. It's some kind of a letter file. And if I look over here, I've got $5 in freight. All right, now let's go back to here. Let's add the other order. So in real life, if you use this feature, you probably won't click through like that, but just showing you kind of what's there so that when you see it later combined, you'll see that the data has changed. So you can click this plus button here, and any of the other orders that qualify based on the criteria that I mentioned will be available in this list. So you can manually click which ones you want right here. You can manually click ship complete if you want, or you can use some of these buttons over here. So if I hit the green button, it will automatically select everything in the list. So if there's 10 orders and I hit the green button, boom, all 10 get selected real quick. This button here is the ship all button. So if I click that, it will check any of these that haven't already been prompted, and the first one already prompted me and I said no. So that's why that one's not there, but it will also make it ship complete. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to do that all at the same time in this scenario. That's what it does. Yep, those are the two I want in this case. And then it's giving us a little warning and it says, hey, make sure you check out that plate on the total tab. So our first order was 5, so we should see a change hopefully if there was additional plates. Then I hit OK. Now that we've done that, the order number reads multiple. If I want to see what they are, I just click in here like I did the first time, and there's the info. The PO number now says multiple. If I want to see what those PO numbers are, they're right there. Notice the first order in here is considered the primary order because it was the first one selected. It's what they does. So the second one was a verbal by Jerry. Then we're going to come over to our line tab and go ahead and update the shipping quantities because we didn't do that when we selected them. Now I've got both line items there. Now this one needs a lot number. It's a lotted item, so I'll go ahead and finish my distribution there. Notice it's got the sales order number right here and the PO number as well. So those may appear in your secondary grid. I think I moved those up for demo today, but they're available and you can see them. Let's go over to the total tab. Total freight now shows $6. That's because it was 5 on one and $1 on the other. It did add them up for the correct total of $6. So, and again, I could massage this if I wanted to, change the freight, whatever I wanted to do. But there it is. Let's go ahead and print this thing and see what the invoice might look like. And this is a completely stock generic invoice. So we haven't done anything to it at all. and it shows multiple. Here for the order number. The purchase order does multiple. Down in the details here, we've got the order number referred to right there and there. We also have each individual order's PO number referred to in here. The rest of it looks pretty much like any other invoice you've seen in text. So there's that. So we can also use for the report. Let's go ahead and run this through a quick update, and we'll take a look at this, in history after. So let's see. Whoops, wrong one. We want the distract. I'm just going to do this for today, so you guys can see the update real quick. And tax, I'm not going to do the gross profit, it's optional. I'm not going to do tax, it's optional. And I'm going to go ahead and say update sales journal. And I'm not going to put it in the transaction register. By the way, in stage 20, I think it's 2019 it started, there's a checkbox now in Rural Security that allows you to post all the way through to the general ledger without hitting this prompt. So mine is still set up like the old Sage, but there is now a capability when you tell it to update the invoice back that it will go all the way through with one option choosing yes. So I'm going to choose no. Let's go ahead and go over to accounts receivable. Let's find the sailing ship people. There they are. And let's go look at our invoices here. And let's see here. Which one is it? I think it's number 57. Okay, and it is. There's our multiple, just like it looked like on the screen. We can see the information there. Here's the POs. We can see the information there. And we can come over here and pretty much see the same stuff here. So it does a pretty good job of showing us all that good stuff after the fact. Fortunately, that's $6 in freight. So that's a pretty cool new feature. Multiple invoices on a single, multiple sales orders on a single invoice. All right. All right. A few more things to try to get through here. Warehouses. One of the most annoying things that we've had a lot of complaints about over the years is warehouse codes and the fact that you can't get rid of them. Once you create a warehouse code and there's ever been transactions against it, they're there, even if you don't use them. So I'm going to go into inventory management. We're just going to talk about warehouse code status. So here's warehouse code maintenance. And there's now a status button. So I'll just pick one here. So this warehouse status has been added. So there's now 3 statuses. So I'm just going to kind of talk about these as the tip. Active is what you've always been used to. It means it's open and available for transactions. Inactive means that the intent is it's no longer in use. It's restricted from data entry. It can't have any quantity of items in that warehouse. And it can't be referenced on a pending transaction. So that is inactive. Now, of course, because it has a status, you could filter lookups to not see the inactive warehouses if you didn't want to in lookups. Now we'll talk about restricted. If you make a warehouse restricted, the intent is that it's temporarily suspended from data entry, except for where you allow the entry. Hypothetical scenario. You're going to do a physical count, so you don't want people doing anything other than a physical count entry. You could check that box and all the other types of transactions would be restricted until you came back, finished your physical count, and then came back, unchecked that, and accepted it. So we'll talk about that as being a good tip. And there is an option in company maintenance. Let's go back up there and take a look at that. Library master name, company maintenance. So each company has its own preferences, just like the users do, that was showed at the beginning. There is also an option to display inactive warehouse right there in AOE lookup. So that turns it off globally. You could also just create your own lookup that doesn't see the inactive, but that's a global checkbox right there. Okay, and then I guess my last little tip I'm going to throw out here is just a fun one. Under General Ledger Reports, there's a fun report called the exception report. And what the exception report does is that it's meant to communicate to you the accounting things that are out of their natural order. So debit balance with a credit balance, credit accounts with a debit balance, inactive accounts with activity, deleted accounts with activity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's out of its natural order. Let's just preview this and see what we get. We may not get anything for all we know. All right, so here's what it came up with. It's telling me, hey, your cash in the bank is an asset that's negative. Well, that might be true. If it's true, it's bad, but it could be true. But it could also just be that something's wrong with the account that needs attention. So there it is. You can kind of see what it put up there. And that's a quick and dirty one. A lot of people don't know that report exists. It's kind of interesting. Fun to see. All right, that is the end of my scheduled tips and tricks. I'm going to turn it back over to Jolene and see if we've got any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bruce. We'll now open it up for questions. If you have any questions, please enter them into the question section of your GoToWebinar. And we'll give that a minute in case any come through. And just a reminder, everyone, we do have a subject matter expert here. This is a great opportunity to have your questions answered in real time. All right, it looks like we do have one that came through, Bruce. This one says, can you share custom lookup windows with different users, or do you need to recreate them for each user?
No, there is a process to create them globally. Let's see if I can remember where this is. I think it's in the library master somewhere in here. Yeah, user lookup wizard. Library master name, user lookup wizard. Go through that, and I think that's a way where you can create them for multiple people at one time.
Perfect. And then the next one says, will you send this recording out at the end of the session? I would like to create a custom view in AR similar to what you demonstrated, but I will need to watch this over again. Yes, the recording will be sent out by end of day tomorrow to everyone who attended and everyone who registered but was unable to attend. And I think that's it. Well, thank you so much, Bruce, for your informative presentation and for taking the time to be here today. A note for our audience, we will be sending out a link to SWK's Business Survival Guide along with the webinar recording tomorrow afternoon. This is an excellent resource for best practices for working remotely in light of everything that is going on. For those who registered but were not able to attend, please reach out to your CAM or to SWK directly for access to the Business Survival Guide. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.